I'd love to hear about your background and how you got into gardening.
Not on purpose, not by design. I didn't come from a family that had generations of gardeners, although I was thinking about it. My dad's family is from Greece, and he grew up on a farm. And one of my earliest memories when we went there was the olive groves and the fresh mint in the air at night and that sort of thing. But we didn't have a big perennial garden growing up or anything. I enjoy interior decorating. And to me, the garden is an extension of that. When I got done in here, I kind of looked around and said, oh, wait, now what about that? When we bought this house, we've been here 15 years. And I'd started gardening a little bit at another house. We'd been to Nantucket with the kids over a summer break. And I came back inspired by the gardens I saw there because they were charming little cottage gardens. And that sort of style suited our last house. So I replicated that. And I'm self-taught, so I made a lot of mistakes, learning about soil, learning about placement, learning about different conditions. I think that's the best way to learn. It can be expensive and it can be frustrating, but ultimately you own that knowledge. Flash forward to this, we're on an acre. We had an old swimming pool and a cabana, and that got ripped out right away because the pool had heaved out of the ground and there was no cover. And I was worried, they were little at the time when we moved in, and I was afraid somebody was going to fall in, so that got pulled away. Little by little by little, I just started owning more and more of the yard and made it garden. And that was tough to do because my husband played football in college, and so for him, a sweeping lawn was like the be-all and end-all. You know, Luke and Alex and a bunch of guys would be here all the time playing Frisbee, and so I felt a little bit like I was taking something away, but in reality I was adding something. What inspired me to do what I'm doing with GardenFreak is that I realized that the gift of somebody coming over and being inspired by your garden and asking questions and putting them in a good mood was such a light bulb going off for me. Because of my personality and who I am, I do like to take risks. So in order to do that, you really have to kind of learn the rules first and then break them. That applies to fine art and other forms of art as well. You kind of get trained either by self-training or by formal training, and then you make your mark, you know, create your style. So the funky lawn labyrinth, and it's really fun to have a lot of native plants that kind of stand their own ground and don't have to be so super tended to. And when they do flop, you have some margins like a gravel path or some boxwood hedges that help keep it in check. My feeling is that a garden is always evolving. That's not an original thought, but it's so true. As one matures and their personality changes and they maybe travel and they see other gardens or get influenced by other things, you come back and you're a little bit changed, and therefore the things in your home and the things in your garden get that vibe as well. Just as a little aside, yesterday I was working on some of my containers. I've moved away from tender plants for my containers and have gone more to succulents because they're more self-sufficient, and then I can spend more time in the garden than having to constantly water and tend these umpteen pots and things around the yard. Plus, I love the yin and the yang of desert or succulent plants versus some of our plants. It's really about gardening outside of the lines, really taking risks, because the payoff is always rewarding. If you're tame, if you only do a 3-foot border and it's smack dab against the fence, you know, it's hard to relate to the garden when it's that refined. You know, if you have a small room, you could put a really big oversized piece in there and it makes the room just that much more edgy or different. Same thing, I think, applies to a garden.
Oh, that's great. So tell me a little bit about GardenFreak.
Well, first of all, GardenFreak is a term of endearment that my kids gave me. I liken it to computer geek or a gearhead or something along those lines. Because they would see me from morning till night out in my garden, day after day, year after year, creating this garden. That is where the name came from. So the brand concept is this. I found that there is an opportunity in the marketplace. When I go out shopping for garden supplies, garden tools, when I think about how young people relate to gardens, a demographic, let's say, 18 to 35, there's nobody really talking to that market in a very pop culture vernacular. And that's what I think GardenFreak can do through a TV show and through a merchandise line,
Mm-hmm.
the GardenFreak brand.
Okay.
So that's what I've been developing. It's like juggling things of a different way. Being an entrepreneur, you're trying different things.
Oh, yeah.
There's no roadmap on how to get there. And it's fun and it's daunting. It's exciting because you go down different paths and you don't know where it will take you. So blogging has been fun. Tweeting, I'm all about tweeting. Who knew?
I'll have to follow you.
Oh my God, you better. But I had some interesting people start following me on Twitter last week. You know, media people and different things like that. So it's incremental, the growth and the concept. So then it's staying true to the voice of what GardenFreak is about. Remembering why I started it, because it's easy to get sidetracked.
Oh, yeah.
It started with the TV ideas you saw on the website. There's a sizzle reel of what the show would look like conceptually. I learned to garden by visiting other gardens. By doing that, I learned stories about other gardeners along the way that never get told. The GardenFreak concept in a show form, and certainly in my blogging, is to expose those stories, to show that gardeners are every bit the artists as the culinary artists are today, or as the fine artists are. What GardenFreak can do, I think, is make obtaining a garden less daunting. It can be funky and fun and creative and expressive. It's a way of life, for sure.
Do you gather any inspiration for your gardens from the North Shore at all?
There are several I would point to. First and foremost is the Chicago Botanic Garden.
Yeah.
When my kids were little, I would put them on their bikes and we would ride up there. We'd walk around and get an ice cream and I would look at things and, well, I love the feeling of being in a garden. There's something transforming to me. Personally, I feel like I'm, it's just an altered state. I love it. The other part of the Chicago Botanic Garden is that it's so close to my home and it's so accessible that when I came home, I'd look at my own bare plot and I'd say, well, if they can do it, I can do it. And I would catch the names of what they were planting there and try to look for them myself and look at how they combined plants and the textures that they used and the way their borders flowed. And that was where it started for me. Close second is the Garden Conservancy. To go to somebody's private garden and see what they could do, I was blown away. So that doubled down on my mission to be able to create a garden of our own. I look at gardening as installation art. I think if you've been to a garden and you go back, you want to see something a little different.
Yeah.
So for example, with the Garden Conservancy, I'm on the open days on June 23rd. It's the second time we've opened our garden. I want to bring something new to it for the people that might be repeat visitors. So driving through Highland Park, Saks was going out of business. And I ended up coming home with 6 mannequins that they were getting rid of. And I'm making topiaries out of them. I'm mossing them up. I'm putting succulents on them. And
that's so cool.
They'll be in the garden. I don't know exactly how yet, where I'll place them. I have a few ideas. But putting something unexpected like that is fun.
Yeah.
People bring that idea. They might not copy that exact thought, but they will go and take a chance and a risk in their garden.
So do you have any tips for people that are kind of novice gardeners or just kind of dipping their toe in the water, trying to get something started?
Just don't be impatient. I wanted the instant garden. I wanted it to look beautiful right away, but it really takes a while. If you start to know soil and you start to know sun and drainage and you know what plants are native and which ones are going to be more temperamental, then you can start having fun and mixing it up. You only gain that knowledge by exploring and asking a million questions.